Hey folks, well it's January 14th, high noon, and this morning I got the top wing successfully installed, placed on my Wingnut Wings Rumpler C4 build. I am really happy. This is always a step which gives me pause and a little bit of heart palpitations. This was my first double bay struts and certainly the largest 1/32nd scale biplane I had assembled. All the rest had been single seaters, and you'll see the difference in size in a moment. But the careful planning, or at least what I thought was careful planning, as well as the superb engineering of Wingnut Wings, made the process relatively easy. No false starts. Of course, I'd done a lot of dry fitting before. I secured the wing struts to the bottom wing first using the extra thin Tamiya cement. And after I'd let that cure for a little bit, I did put a drop of Starbond CA glue on top. I just wanted to have a much more secure bond. I had, of course, tested it as best I could to make sure that everything was going to line up when the top wing was dropped in. But that's how I secured the 8 wing struts. The cabane strut the same way, and that's 2 pieces that were attached actually with cement to the underside of the top wing. But when the first step I did was attach those, and that was in place. The wing struts were attached to the lower wing. The lower wing had been cemented in place and tested on my grid system on my cutting pad. Everything looked like it was lined up. The Rumpler has slightly swept back, just a minuscule amount of swept back wings, both bottom and top, and the top has a very slight dihedral. So it's the opposite of, say, the SPAD 13, which are straight across, no dihedral at all, and basically 90-degree angles with the fuselage. Not the case here, but Wingnut Wings engineering kept me on a good course. Okay, so having put and of course I had done all of the turnbuckles and anchor points, and the lines were secured on the underside of the top wing. So the first step was to drop the top wing with the cabane struts in place and put just a drop of the extra thin cement on the 4 contact points. Let that set for about 5 minutes, and then hold my breath and gently flip the plane over so it was on its back with the top wing down on this white paper. And from there, then one by one, I used tweezers to make sure I got the wing struts with the round pegs into the appropriate holes. Yes, everything fit, and then one by one, I secured those with the extra thin cement. No CA glue on the top of the struts. Didn't need it there. It is secured on the bottom. So, dropped a couple of semi-heavy weights on the top wing to make sure everything was pressed down properly before the cement set, and there it is. And so, yeah, notice I'm not swiveling the plane on the paper. There's a lot of dangling rigging line, and I don't want that to catch on anything. That's going to be tomorrow's task, is basically hooking up all of the lines. I've got to put in the ailerons with single lines, control lines going down to the bottom, but that will account for the bulk of the rigging. There are just 4 lines in the undercarriage and 6 lines in the tail assembly. So that, I think, is going to go fairly easily, knock on wood. But there it is. The observer is just standing there blue tacked into his spot. the pilot now is cemented into the cockpit, and he can't come out anymore. He's effectively trapped with where his arm is positioned by the rear trailing edge of that cabine struts structure. So I don't think I'm going to do any more work on this today. I think I'm just going to let everything sit, and tomorrow I will be back to the final steps with the other add-ons. First step will probably be the front engine panels, engine compartment panels, and then around the propeller. The prop will be the last thing I actually put on. I probably will get to the putting on the landing gear assembly tomorrow as well. And then after that, well, actually, I'm going to secure the wing rigging and get that all finished before I put on the landing gear. Now, just in terms of a size comparison, I do have a jig, and it's a wonderful jig. I didn't use it. I thought it might be just a trifle small, although, of course, the wings would have been fine. I just didn't want anything quite that big hanging over the edges of the jig. Just wanted it as close to the cutting mat as possible. You can see the difference in wingspan. For this is the Roland D6 that I completed late last year, and substantially, not a small plane, but substantially smaller, certainly in span, a little bit in fuselage, but certainly in the wing area. I was asked by Aussie Frenchmen whether I thought that larger scale biplanes were easier or harder than doing, say, a 1/72nd. And I think in many respects, they are easier. Generally, my experience has been, certainly with Wingnut Wings, the engineering and the quality of all of the pieces and the fit is probably generally better than this, is really good. So that's good, and that adds to it. About the only thing that makes it, I think, maybe as tough as a little plane where you just don't have a lot of space and small struts and makes rigging quite tricky is you've got a lot of heft to these. Maybe not so much the Scouts or the single-seaters, but certainly these twin-seaters. And for those folks who have done multi-engine aircraft, biplanes regardless of scale, be it 1/72nd, 1/48th, or 1/32nd, I'm thinking of Gotha bombers, or the Felixstowe, or the AEG. My God, my hat's off to you, because the amount of rigging multiplies, and the work to get everything under control and move around, even though there's a lot of room, there's also a lot of weight and a lot of physics going on with a much bigger plane. At least that's my opinion. I don't think I'm ever going to try one of those. I do have another twin-seater, a DFW, which is similar in size to this Rumpler. But that'll wait a while. Oh, and I've got a Bristol Fighter. That's a Bristol Fighter. That's a two-seater as well. And that one is going to be interesting because of the lower wing structure. More about that when I build it. Anyway, thanks for watching. And right now, knock on wood, I think I'm going to make that deadline for this group build. This has sure been fun all the way, except for some of my painting mistakes, but most of those were correctable. Take care. Thanks for watching.